take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
CannabisRadio.com presents The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, this is great, man.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Tuesday, May 31st, 2016, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Welcome to the show. We're coming to you live and direct from Cannabis Radio headquarters here in beautiful, sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, where the temperature is creeping up near 100, and it's supposed to get into the 110s by the weekend. But fortunately, I won't be here this weekend. I'm just here for one day, just today, bringing you a live show. Tomorrow, there will be no live show because I'll be on my way to Aspen, Colorado for the Aspen Normal Legal Seminar, the annual seminar of the best and brightest in criminal defense and cannabis law reform, meeting up in Aspen at the Gant Resort. We're going to get a lot of interviews and recordings for you of this very prestigious event. And I'm also taking my base up there because this will be my fifth visit to Hunter S. Thompson's Owl Farm and another chance to get in on the jam session. So it's my once-a-year jam session at Hunter Thompson's place. It's really just for me. It really just frees my soul, if you know what I'm talking about. And for those of you who are fans of the good doctor, oh my goodness, the experience up there is it's just takes my breath away. Obviously, it makes me speechless, and very few things do that. So anyway, we've got a great show coming to you today with our special guest joining us from Free Speech TV's Marijuana Straight Talk. Becca Williams will be talking to us at 5:30. Their show is taking off on Free Speech TV. We're going to hear all about it and where you can find it, so stay tuned for that. Coming up in our Cannabis Cinema segment at 5:30. Also on the show today, we'll have time for a radical rant as I take note of how Ohio is now marching into the medical marijuana box canyon. Although we do have to give them some credit. They have crafted the best law out of the past 5 or 10 that have passed in this country. So not all is doom and gloom over there in Ohio. In fact, there's going to be a lot of very happy patients that will finally be getting some relief. But we'll give you all those details in the Radical Rant at the end of Hour 1. Also coming up in Hour 1 here in our Drug War Data Mining segment, some news that I broke on Cannabis Radio News today, which is that senior marijuana use, that is people over the age of 50, has doubled in the past dozen years, while teenage marijuana use, defined as ages 12 to 17, has declined by a quarter. So we'll give you the details behind those numbers and how they disprove the talking point of the prohibitionists that legalizing marijuana will somehow send the wrong message to the children. Also coming up in Hour 1 in our Behind the Headlines segment, we're going to take a look at the Menominee tribe in Wisconsin who have been rebuffed by a federal judge on their challenge to the DEA's raids on their hemp crop. We'll tell you what the judge decided and why that kind of sticks in my craw when it comes to treating our Native American tribes and their sovereignty with respect. But all that comes after the Cannabis Radio News. We start things off with some headlines from Columbus, Ohio, where, again, the medical marijuana issue seems to have been settled now. We take you out to the Netherlands, where there's a new study on cannabis legalization and international law. We've got a septuagenarian candidate for Congress in Tennessee who got busted with a massive marijuana grow. In Springfield, Illinois, we've got the governor changing his mind on medical marijuana expansion. In Portland, Maine, there's a new coalition to oppose marijuana legalization, and the governor of Oregon has appointed a senior advisor on marijuana policy. Coming up next.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Cannabis use isn't the only thing growing. So are we. Grow with us. CannabisRadio.com.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a marketable and profitable website can be an uphill climb. Ready to make your new website or replace your existing website? Think Orange as the new way to get in the black. Orange Hill Development works with Fortune 500 companies and offer the same top quality development service at a fraction of what other providers charge. Brands like Absolute, Carlsberg, and Nestea trust Orange Hill Development. Find out why you should trust your website with Orange Hill. Contact Orange Hill for a consultation today at orangehilldevelopment.com.
Cannabis Confidential with Dr. Dina. Candid.
I want to give you the inside story.
Captivating.
I want to introduce you to my kind and amazingly talented friends.
Compelling.
We get to meet some of the most amazing cannabis activists and warriors around.
Listen in as medical marijuana pioneer Dr. Dina shares never-before-heard stories, chats with cannabis insiders and celebrity friends, and provides invaluable perspective and insight into one of the fastest-growing industries in the world.
I want to share with you what was once confidential information. Let's expose the truth, discuss the issues, and learn the facts.
Cannabis Confidential, only on CannabisRadio.com.
The Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com, the National Wildlife Refuge for Marijuana Unicorns.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPA's offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit neweracpas.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the New Era.
It's time for the Cannabis Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Cannabis Radio News is now available exclusively at CannabisRadio.com. Now your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is Cannabis Radio News.
This is your Cannabis Radio News for Tuesday, May 31st, 2016. Columbus, Ohio. Ohioans for medical marijuana have announced they are dropping their campaign to pass a medical marijuana constitutional amendment that allows patients to cultivate their own cannabis. The group, backed by the Marijuana Policy Project, notes that the Ohio legislature's passage of a medical marijuana law has undercut the potential for the initiative campaign. Quote, with several 100,000 signatures collected thus far, one option for our movement would have been to continue to pour our resources into obtaining the additional signatures needed to put the issue before voters, said campaign manager Brandon Lanaugh. Continuing, but the reality is that raising funds for medical marijuana policy changes is incredibly difficult, especially given the improvements made to the proposed program by the Ohio General Assembly and the fact that the governor is expected to sign the bill, end quote. The legislative medical marijuana bill does not allow for home cultivation, bans smoking medical marijuana, and limits cannabis concentrates to 70% THC. Nijmegen, the Netherlands. The legalization of cannabis by United Nations member states does not violate international law, according to a new study by researchers at Radboud University in the Netherlands. While a trio of international drug control treaties ban the cultivation and sale of cannabis for recreational use, the study authors argue that nations can legalize cannabis to protect human rights if doing so works better than drug prohibition. 5 conditions must be met, which include the nation demonstrating a human rights justification for cannabis legalization, showing that legalization will succeed where prohibition has failed, deciding to legalize through the democratic process, preventing international trafficking of cannabis, and discouraging personal use of cannabis. Under such conditions, the authors argue, UN human rights obligations would trump the UN drug conventions. Crossville, Tennessee. A 77-year-old candidate for Congress in Tennessee has been busted for a 180-plant cannabis grow inside a barn on her property. Flo Matheson, running for Congress in Tennessee's 6th Congressional District, was also found to be in possession of 2 ounces of usable marijuana inside her home. Matheson owns up to the marijuana, quote, "I smoke marijuana. I'm guilty. I did it," end quote, she said, but denies knowledge of the grow site in her barn, which she had allowed a friend to use, a homeless veteran named Stephen Harrington. Quote, "I really don't regret that this happened," she said. "It's been a life-changing experience for me in that it has made me more defiant and determined to try and get these laws changed," end quote, she told a local NBC affiliate. Springfield, Illinois. Governor Bruce Rauner has reversed course on broadening Illinois' medical marijuana pilot program and is now supporting a plan to extend it roughly 2 years and add more qualifying health conditions. Legislation filed Friday by Deputy House Leader Lou Lang adds post-traumatic stress syndrome and terminal illness to the qualifying conditions, reconstitutes an advisory board, and overhauls procedures. The proposal also extends the sunset to 2020 from 2018. Rauner has previously rejected attempts at expansion. He vetoed legislation adding PTSD. In a statement, Lang says Rauner and GOP leaders agreed on a plan that'll help seriously ill individuals. Rauner's office confirmed his support but declined to comment. Democratic former Governor Pat Quinn signed the program into law in 2013. The first sales were just last year. Portland, Maine, a coalition of drug rehab professionals, faith leaders, law enforcement, and public health advocates has formed to oppose the initiative to legalize marijuana in Maine. The group is called Mainers Protecting Our Youth and Communities and is headed by Scott M. Gagnon, who is also the head of the local chapter of Project SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, the national anti-legalization group headed by Kevin Sabet. Quote, "This initiative to legalize marijuana poses significant threats to our youth and communities," Gagnon said in a prepared statement. "The marijuana industry has crafted an initiative that would see shops open in neighborhoods all over Maine, selling potent pot gummy bears and cookies and other highly addictive and dangerous products. These products have led to increases in ER admissions in Colorado, including admissions of preschool-aged children," end quote. A recent poll shows that 55% of Mainers support the legalization initiative. This has been your Cannabis Radio News for Tuesday, May 31st, 2016. I'm Russ Belville.
We don't limit how much you smoke, and we don't limit where you listen. Cannabis Radio is now on iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery, even though the risks are far less than those posed by legal drugs.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
I also believe we need a fence. The problem is if El Chapo builds a tunnel under the fence, we have to be able to deal with that too.
Okay. Maybe you're high too.
Don't want to spend money on a night out, but don't know what to do other than watching TV or playing video games? Consider playing guitar, bass, banjo, or mandolin. The instrument will give you hours of entertainment with friends with minimal expense. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
The world of cannabis is evolving at a frenetic pace. The Russ Belville Show gets behind the headlines to take a deeper look at breaking news in our Cannabis Focus.
Today in the Cannabis Focus, we take a look at a Wisconsin tribe that is attempting to legalize hemp in its tribal lands. Now, part of the problem with this is that its tribal lands are completely within the state of Wisconsin, which does not recognize the use of cannabis or the use of industrial hemp. So this has caused a big problem for them, and it culminated in a raid that took place. The U.S. the USDEA raiding the Menominee tribe, just trying to get the pronunciation correct, the Menominee tribe in Wisconsin, and seizing all of their hemp plants and seed that they had put together. Now, there was a lawsuit filed by the Menominee tribe in federal court, which was seeking a declaration that their hemp growing operation was legal based on the idea that the Farming Act, the U.S. Farm Act, that allows the states to legally grow and experiment with hemp should extend to the Native American tribes. Unfortunately, last week, a federal judge dismissed this lawsuit by the Menominee tribe, claiming that they did not really have the standing to bring that lawsuit about. And looking at the decision by the federal judge, he says that the court denies for declaratory relief to the effect that state, as used in the hemp statute, includes Indian tribes and rejects the tribe's theory that it acted as a state when it enacted its own law allowing hemp cultivation. That's the Farm Act that I'm talking about. And again, the Farm Act specifies that states that have passed their own industrial hemp farming law should now be free from DEA interference in pursuing that law. And that's why we've got hemp plantations going up in Kentucky, in Colorado, and Oregon, and so forth. But the problem that still remains is that these Indian tribes that are supposed to be sovereign nations under our law are not being given that respect, not given the respect that states are given under this law. And states aren't sovereign under federal law. I mean, really, the Indian tribes should have more freedom than the states do in this particular respect. But according to the judge, since they didn't specifically mention native tribes, and they only mentioned state in the hemp statute, in the Farm Bill, that it doesn't apply to the native tribes. Now, it doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense. If a state is sovereign enough to do hemp plantations, an Indian tribe should be, but law and logic don't always go hand in hand. So the tribe argued also that it should be exempt from the state ban on growing hemp. Under Wisconsin state law, the judge there said, quote, "Wisconsin law does not allow the growing of hemp. While Wisconsin law is not enforceable on the Menominee Reservation, that does not change the fact that the growing or cultivating of industrial hemp is not allowed under the laws of the state of Wisconsin. Because the tribe is located in the state of Wisconsin, the hemp exception to the Controlled Substances Act does not apply to the tribe. And having concluded that the exception does not apply in any event, state or federal, it is not necessary to address the issue of whether the College of Menominee Nation is an institution of higher education under 5940. That part that they're referring to there is the part of the Farm Act that says that the research institutions in the states that have laws regarding industrial hemp are free to move forward with the research of industrial hemp. Even that's not going to be allowed. He doesn't even have to get to that point because they don't have the right under state or federal law to move forward. Now, there was a response by the Menominee tribe to this ruling. And in their response, they say, quote, "The tribe is disappointed with this recent setback that challenges our sovereignty as a tribal nation and inhibits our ability to pursue research initiatives exploring the viability of this versatile and sustainable crop. The tribe is currently reviewing the decision to determine what options it may or may not pursue." End quote. So once again, the federal government screwing over the Native Americans, and unnecessarily so. It seems clear that the direction of the country is for more leniency, more acceptance of marijuana, much less industrial hemp. And on the issue of industrial hemp, most people these days are educated enough to understand that we're talking about rope, not dope. We're talking about fuel and fiber and building materials and food and everything but getting high when we're talking about industrial hemp. So the native tribes should be free to grow this. The states should be free to grow this. The entire country should give up the Schedule 1 designation for industrial hemp plants. They're still growing wild in places like Wisconsin and Kansas and Nebraska.
Let's get out of here. I have some really good weed back at the hotel.
All right, we got to take a break because we're having some technical difficulties on the live feed side. I'm going to have to restart a couple of things. Shouldn't affect those of us listening to the podcast because I'm just going to pause the recording until we get things fixed. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com. At least those of you listening to the podcast are.
Maui Wowie, Acapulco Gold, California Kush. Our strains stretch everywhere too. This is the Cannabis Radio Network.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
I said palm trees, make California.
Yo, it's your boy TJ, Trinidad James. You're listening to Dr. Bina on Cannabis Confidential. LA, what up?
Nickname James, man. I'm worried like a lake. I need to...
People were so excited to see you supporting our industry, and it's so important to see people who are mainstream, who are out there, that people look up to.
That was my first one ever going to, so that was definitely a big deal for me. It's not just, oh man, just come smoke a bunch of joints. It's a lot of science into it. It's way more interesting than a lot of people might think who look down, per se, on what we enjoy.
Cannabis Confidential, only on CannabisRadio.com.
I feel like palm trees, make California.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people.
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details.
Promoting the end of adult cannabis prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It's even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more on this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
Today in the Drug War Data Mines, we take a look at the National Survey of Drug Use and Health, and we glean from it some very important information that the drug warriors certainly don't want people to know. Some of those drug warriors have been saying a pretty strong message against legalization for years, and it goes something like this. Back in 1999, Representative Bill McCollum, a representative in the state of Florida, argued that medical marijuana legalization was, quote, sending the wrong message to our youth, end quote. In 2000, former drug czar Barry McCaffrey argued that, quote, legalization would send a strong message that taking drugs is safe and socially accepted behavior. That would play a major role in softening youth attitudes and ultimately increasing drug use, end quote. In 2005, the deputy chief of the NYPD's Narcotics Division, Edmund Hartnett, wrote that legalization, quote, leads to more experimentation by youth, end quote. And even as recently as 2013, the last drug czar, Gil Kurlikowski, was saying, quote, we are certainly not sending a very good message when we call it medicine and legalize it, end quote. The idea, of course, this message that we're sending to the kids, that marijuana ain't so bad. It's medical. Adults can use it without problems. Well, that's going to lead the kids to get more marijuana and use more marijuana and think it's no big deal, and then we'll have stoned teenagers roaming the streets. So we took a look at the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, and we decided to look over the last dozen years. Our analysis goes back to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health for the years 2002, and we took it to the most recent data available, the year 2014. And what we found is in the dozen years between 2002 and 2014, marijuana use among the nation's seniors has doubled, while use by minor teenagers has dropped by over a quarter. What's this? They apparently didn't get the message, those teenagers. They were supposed to be using more marijuana, but apparently fewer of them are using marijuana now. So in 2002, here's the numbers. In 2002, 26.8% of minors aged 12 to 17 and 16.6% of seniors aged 50 or older admitted to using marijuana in the past year. Over a quarter of minor teenagers and a sixth of seniors aged 50 and older. In the 2014 survey, 19.5% of minors and 36.5% of seniors admitted to using marijuana. That is, we went from over 1 in 4 minors to under 1 in 5 minors. And we went from 1 in 6 seniors to over 1 in 3 seniors admitting to using marijuana in a year. That works out to a decline of 27.2% in the minor use rate, declined by over a quarter, and an increase of 119.9% in the senior use rate. That's more than double the senior use rate. Now, this is reflecting use rates, which is the rate of how many people in that age group are using marijuana. But if you look at the raw numbers, you get an even more interesting picture because, of course, there are more people in 2014 than there were in 2002. And we've got that baby boomer demographic, that aging demographic that's moving through the calendar, right? So in raw numbers, if we look back to 2002, there were 3.35 million teenage marijuana users and 2.12 million senior marijuana users. In 2014, the teen marijuana users dropped by 50,000, 3.3 million teens. 50,000 fewer teens in overall raw numbers are using marijuana in 2014. The raw numbers for the seniors went up to 6.56 million, from 2.12 to 6.56. That's a tripling in raw numbers of seniors because, again, that boomer demographic has moved up and increased, so you're going to get larger raw numbers. And the numbers for age groups, other age groups, are kind of revealing. There are 2 million more annual marijuana users aged 18 to 25, but the rate of use for young adults actually went down from 72% to 64%. The college age kids went down 72 to 64. There are 2.4 million more cannabis consumers aged 26 to 34, but their rate of use held relatively steady, 41% to 43.5%. And for the ages 35 to 49, middle-aged people, there are 1.2 million more consumers, but their rate of consumption decreased from 43.4% to 36.5%. That's actually the same rate as the seniors as well, 36.5%. So you could say from the age of 35 on up, 1 out of 3 people is using marijuana this year. 1 out of 3 of people 35 and up. Legalization led to more use by older people, not younger people. And keep in mind, at the beginning of this span, there were just 7 states that had legalized the medical use of cannabis. No state had legalized recreational marijuana, and Nevada had just rejected legalization with 39% of the vote. By the end of 2014, 23 states have medical cannabis programs, 10 states had allowed for medical cannabidiol use, and 4 states had legalized adult use marijuana. It seems that if there was any message about marijuana received by the youth through state legalization of medical and adult use, it's that marijuana is for middle-aged and older people. All right, stay tuned. We got Becca Williams coming up next from Free Speech TV right here on the Russ Belville Show.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
How high do you like your profit margin? CannabisRadio.com.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a marketable and profitable website can be an uphill climb. Ready to make your new website or replace your existing website? Think Orange as the new way to get in the black. Orange Hill Development works with Fortune 500 companies and offer the same top quality development service at a fraction of what other providers charge. Brands like Absolute, Carlsberg, and Nestea trust Orange Hill Development. Find out why you should trust your website with Orange Hill. Contact Orange Hill for a consultation today at orangehilldevelopment.com.
It's time for cannabis facts about Alzheimer's from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A new Florida study in the journal Molecular and Cellular Neuroscience found that cannabis promotes the growth of healthy new brain tissue. It can slow the effects of Alzheimer's and may in fact be able to halt it entirely. A long-term study by Ohio State University's Professor Gary Wenk concludes that people who regularly use marijuana get Alzheimer's at a much lower rate than others. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
You can find Radical Russ online everywhere. Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, SoundCloud, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and Boise State University's 2400 baud modem bulletin board system from 1985.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPAs offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit neweracpas.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the New Era. As marijuana moves into the mainstream, more filmmakers are taking a look at all aspects of cannabis culture. These days, marijuana movies are about more than hiding from Sergeant Stadenko or trying to get to White Castle for the munchies. Join with us as we explore the latest in the cannabis cinema. Well, today in the Cannabis Cinema, we take a look at the small screen, television screen that is, and joining us is the host of one such cannabis-related television show, Marijuana Straight Talk on Free Speech TV, and the host, Becca Williams, joins us by Skype. How you doing, Becca?
Oh, Russ, what a treat to be with you. You are a media pioneer in this space, an advocate, and you have done so much to grow this whole arena. I am here in part because of you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for such nice words. I really appreciate that. And I admire you going into this on the video side. I did video for a while, and my goodness, that's a lot to deal with. So good for you taking it on. Tell us about your show on Free Speech TV.
Sure, absolutely. We are kicking off in September with a weekly show. We got a green light from a remarkable television network, which you probably are familiar with. It's called Free Speech Television Network. They're national. They are on Dish and Direct. They get about 1.2 million viewers per month. Free Speech runs Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman, The Thom Hartmann Show, Stephanie Miller. So we are in good company. And the the rest of the show, Russ, is really about embracing and nurturing how we are going to see this cannabis culture evolve and unfold. We know that we are headed toward legalization. How the dominoes are going to fall, we don't really know that yet, but we know that that's going to happen. And our citizenry across this country there's so many of us who are deeply involved with cannabis in one way or the other, whether it's marijuana or hemp, industrial hemp. And so we are far outpacing our legislators and lawmakers. So this show is really about the coming of age of the cannabis culture and all that entails.
That sounds great, and great to hear that's on Free Speech TV. I recognized it from the Democracy Now! Program, and Tom Hartman, who, when he was a radio personality on AM 620 KPOJ here in Portland, was kind of my mentor as I was breaking into radio. So, like you said, great company, no greater folks than Tom Hartman and the folks at Free Speech TV. And Becca, I'm interested in your background, how you came to be the host of this show, and what's your connection to cannabis?
Wow, that's a big question. So let me start by saying that I come from a childhood that had a lot of trauma. There was a lot of abuse, Russ, in my family of origin. And so consequently, I was raised in an environment that was not safe and that offered little support for me in my self-worth, for instance, and my concept of myself. And so growing up in that kind of environment as a teenager, as a young person, I found that I was really coursing with anxiety and panic, and I was afraid a lot of the time over the most simple things, and because my childhood was not safe, and so that was the way I was conditioned in my behavior. And I know that I am not alone, because I have heard from a lot of people out there as I talk about these things, particularly on our YouTube channel. And so I started partaking of cannabis in college, and found that it was really very much of a soothing agent for me that took me back into a sense of well-being. So for that, since a young adult, it has been a thread in my life. So fast forward to my profession as a reporter, a television reporter. I work for National Public Radio in Chicago, and of course, I used cannabis all the way through that for my health and well-being, if you will. And I eventually became a national health editor for a network of magazines called Dragonfly Media. And it was through that where we were specializing in holistic and alternative approaches to health. And of course, that includes herbs. And a lot of people were telling me how they were treating their pain with cannabis. But I was working for a family magazine at the time, unlike you, where you're just been out there. And I had to make the decision. That it was a family magazine, and I couldn't encourage people to do this. And so what goes around comes around, and here I am now with the chops from, television reporting. I consider myself a recovering television reporter, and the storytelling from NPR, and I also love your tagline, the NPR of POT, which you are.
Thank you.
And sure, and as we say in Iowa, Russ, it ain't bragging if it's fact.
Well, thank you so much, Becca. And now you're the third person from mainstream journalism I've met who's taken on cannabis journalism. Of course, Charlo Green up in Alaska, who quit on air, and then Sid Maurer out here in Eugene, Oregon, who lost her television anchor job. She was a morning anchor. She lost her job because she got a little fender bender in the company car and turned up positive on the subsequent urine screen. So I'm very, very excited about the prospect of more people coming from the professional journalism side into the cannabis journalism side. And what a relief it must be for you to be able to speak openly on the topic.
Yes, when I worked with Dragonfly Media, I became the editor of one of the largest, most progressive eco-sustainable magazines covering eco-sustainability and health and well-being and personal growth and development in the United States. And it was in Chicago. It was called Conscious Choice. And I was the editor there, and the company really believed in advocacy, which was something that was so foreign to me. Because, of course, as you know, as a reporter, you are all about quote-unquote objectivity, which is a total and absolute myth. But because we always take our biases into everything that we do. But this magazine was allowing me to talk about GMOs without that insipid balance where you have, for instance, marijuana is good, marijuana is bad, and you have these two voices in about 4 minutes, and then it just gets really vapid, and nobody gets anything from it at all. And this was the frame was changed for me in the context of doing this work with Conscious Choice in Chicago, because it was really about what are the best choices for living with a lighter footprint on the planet, both personally, both conscious business out there. How do you do that? And so that has been my area of interest for a lot of years now, and that is what I'm bringing to the cannabis sector, Russ.
That's fantastic. We're speaking with Becca Williams. She's the host of Marijuana Straight Talk. That'll be airing on Free Speech TV come this September, but you also mentioned a YouTube channel. So is it shows that you had done on YouTube and now you're, kind of moving up to the big leagues?
Oh, Russ, what we have done, and I invite people to go to our website if I might.
Yes.
It's mjstraighttalk.com. mjstraighttalk.com. Remember, there's two T's, one in talk and one in straight, and we have pilot episodes from last year that ran on free speech, and we did a 420 special last month. Get this, that turned out to be Free Speech's highest, most popular, highest ratings of a weekly show for all of 2016. This was a one-off special. So the appetite for information is huge around this. So we have, we have everything. I mean, we have the television show, and at the same time, we have nearly 100 videos of premium content around living. How do you integrate cannabis into your life? And so you can go to our YouTube also, if you don't mind me giving these plugs.
Please do. No, that's what we're here for.
The YouTube channel is MJ Straight Talk also, just like our website.
Excellent. mjstraighttalk.com, MJ Straight Talk on YouTube, and soon Marijuana Straight Talk on Free Speech TV, which you can find on Dish Network and Direct TV. Any other outlets that we need to let people know about?
All the digital components. We love television, and that's America. The majority of Americans still get their information from television. Now, when you look at the ages, that skews. Obviously, it skews older because baby boomers are more used to television. But millennials and Gen Xers are getting it. They may do it more on mobile, but it does show that television is still the mainstay, and people are tuning in. So we have that, but we also have. We're on Roku, and we call those over-the-top OTT. So for cord cutters, all these terms. There's a lot of people out there who don't want to pay the high prices of cable anymore, and so they go to Apple Television or they go to Roku. There's others that I'm trying to think. Android. What is it? Anyway, they're called OTT over the top, and so it's streaming, and you can get on those channels. Sling TV, we're going to have video on demand after the show runs. They run it several times like HBO does,
Sure.
Free Speech does. And so it'll be on video on demand on our website on Free Speech, and you can always watch it streaming. So you don't have to have Dish or Direct in order to get this. So you have to have the whole complement these days, Russ, of all those digital platforms, and we have television.
That's great. Well, it looks like if people need to get their Marijuana Straight Talk, they're going to be able to find a way to get it. And Becca Williams, I wish you all the luck in the world, and congrats on entering the world of cannabis journalism. Glad to have you here.
Well, thank you. And again, congratulations on your 3,000 hours of airtime. Is that what I understand?
Something like that, that's for sure.
Oh, thank you, Russ, my friend.
All right. Good luck, Becca, and we look forward to you on mjstraighttalk.com. Take it easy.
Very good.
All
Bye-bye
right.
now.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Radical Rant, we're going to talk about Ohio and how they're marching in to the medical marijuana Box Canyon when we return.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Seed to sale, clicks to conversions, and more. You're listening to the Cannabis Radio Network.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be, the Vuber way.
This is the Stoner Jesus Show podcast on CannabisRadio.com. And don't try to debate me on something. Motherfucker, I can't do many things well, but words are my shit.
The Stoner Jesus Show, live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Or find the Stoner Jesus Show podcast on demand at CannabisRadio.com and StonerJesus.net.
Peace, bitches.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
I'm telling you, no matter how much you think the supposed monopoly part sucks, it is the best shot for an open market, home-grow legalization as Ohio's going to get for a decade or more. That's a paraphrase of numerous Facebook comments I posted last year to Ohioans who were vehemently opposed to the legalization initiative that failed by a 2-to-1 margin. 2015 was a tough year for me online. I was one of the very few of my colleagues cheerleading for the passage of the Responsible Ohio Issue 3. You'll remember that it was the fantastic marijuana legalization proposal with a really odious catch. There'd only be 10 lands for commercial growing, and they were all owned by the investors in Issue 3, a constitutionally guaranteed oligopoly. I was in Columbus for election night. As the first returns came in, I knew it was doomed. The election night party tried to remain optimistic for a change in the results, but updates just kept reaffirming that Ohio 2015 would be the biggest legalization loss in 30 years. There was a Woman Grow meeting a couple of days after the loss at which I was invited to speak. During the question and answer time, somebody asked me what I thought was next for Ohio in 2016. And I said something close to, I think there will be an initiative push for medical marijuana, but not legalization in 2016. Polls show it's pretty much a slam dunk here. If they've got a serious proposal that could win, I expect your legislature will pass some no home grow, non-smokable, no plant medical marijuana law like Minnesota and New York just to beat them to the punch. I said something close to that at least, and I was almost exactly right. There was an initiative push this year for medical marijuana, but not for legalization. The legislature saw that it had a serious chance of passing, so they came up with their own medical marijuana legislation that is no home grow and non-smokable. But Ohio did prove me wrong on one point. They did manage to get access to whole plant medical marijuana, but smoking it is forbidden. We'll come back to that. One positive that had come from the 2015 campaign was the polling that showed medical marijuana was extremely popular in the Buckeye State. Marijuana Policy Project put resources into a citizens' initiative for medical marijuana. It included the right of patients to cultivate up to 6 cannabis plants. The legislature, recognizing that the MPP initiative would likely win in November, crafted its own medical marijuana law. Initially, it was no home grow, non-smokable, and no plant, just like I'd predicted. But the activists fought hard and got the inclusion of plant material as an acceptable form of medical marijuana, so long as it is not smoked. Yeah, I'm sure that once the patients get it home, that law will be followed as diligently as the for tobacco use only sign in a head shop. But the real reason for the smoking ban is that it forces patients who want to smoke it to only do it at home. In public, possession of a pipe or burnt marijuana will be a non-medical use, and those caught with it will still be subject to the criminal laws. And another strange quirk of the new Ohio law is it's got a limitation on THC potency for marijuana at 35% and extracts at 70%. 35% bud is not too difficult because even the best bud on the West Coast is just topping 30% at this point. But a 70% limit on extracts just means that the patients who need extracts are going to have to smoke more of them. I'm sorry, not smoke because combustion isn't allowed. Vaporize more of them in order to get the same relief. And now, MPP has announced the suspension of their campaign for the medical marijuana initiative. Almost everything from the MPP initiative is in the new law with respect to the qualifying conditions, including PTSD, the growers, the processors, the dispensaries, the patient's rights to not be disqualified from organ transplants or child custody is included. But what it's missing, of course, is the right of patients to home grow or to get stronger extracts. And fighting to add patients' home grow rights and stronger extracts just is not a wise use of resources in a campaign year where MPP has 4 other legalization initiatives to back. Which reminds me of something I wrote last September. Last September, I had issue 3 opponents in 2015 who said there'd be something better next year. There'd be better legalization next year. And I wrote, quote, "But in 2016, California will be fighting to get on the ballot, and it will attract much of the money donated to support legalization nationwide. Add in Nevada, Michigan, Massachusetts, Maine, Arizona, and maybe even Missouri for 2016, and that leaves a lot of competition for pro-legalization dollars. Could 2020 be the next realistic shot for Ohio if it loses in 2015? Ask California, where their 2010 loss wasn't followed up until hopefully 2016. End quote. Look, I'm happy that medical marijuana will be available for patients in Ohio. And it's great that they'll actually get to use whole plant marijuana in a vaporizer. Wink, wink. But people growing cannabis will still be subject to arrest and prison. People possessing marijuana without medical recommendations will still get minor misdemeanors and fines, as will patients caught smoking marijuana. Just think, Ohio could have been beginning its medical and recreational program right now. Anybody, patient or not, could have been buying $50 licenses to home grow 6 plants. But rather than allow 10 investment groups to control all commercial grow lands, Ohio gets no home grow, non-smoking, medical-only marijuana through a yet-to-be-determined number of growers, processors, extractors, and retailers that localities can ban and that won't begin operations until 2018. And as far as legalization for healthy people to possess and home grow, 2020? Maybe? I'm betting not until 2014, actually. Or 2024, I should say. 2014 already happened. Not until 2024, I should say. It's a double-edged sword fighting for medical marijuana, folks. Yes, you get this victory in Ohio. You get to add yourself to the list of medical marijuana states, but you end a lot of the momentum for passing something better. How much longer is it going to take to get the people of Ohio to think you need to have any changes? They'll figure all the sick and disabled people are already taken care of. And you're just arguing for stoners to have the right to get high. All right, stay tuned. Hour 2 is next. I've got some Steve Elliott news. Oh, my goodness. For everyone here at Cannabis Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down.